Hello, ladies, gents, and everyones. It is Thursday, October 14th, and we're here to talk about this week's space and astronomy news. Last December, China and its Chang'e 5 mission became the third nation ever to return samples from the moon and the first to do so since the 1970s. Scientists studying these samples just published an interesting new result last week. These samples reveal signs of volcanism, making this the youngest solidified lava flow ever found on the moon by 1 billion years. Previous samples had found evidence for volcanism between about 3 to 4 billion years ago, but this material is only 2 billion years old. Not only does this help us fill in our understanding of the moon's history and how it ages in craters, but this actually represents a puzzle for scientists who don't exactly know how the moon had volcanism at that point in time. While volcanism on the moon is the same as volcanism here on Earth, that is, magma forces up through the surface and erupts, the causes are very different because on Earth volcanism is usually driven by plate tectonics, which are not a thing on the moon. So one possible explanation is the decay of radioactive elements in the moon. However, these samples don't really reveal any traces of these radioactive elements. Another possibility is that tidal heating from the Earth was strong enough to cause volcanism at this point, because at that point in time the moon was about twice as close to the Earth as it is now. However, this doesn't explain why there would be localized volcanism and not more widely spread volcanism over the entire surface. So this is an interesting new data point in the history of the moon, and it presents a puzzle for scientists to solve. Mars is still in its solar conjunction period, preventing any communication with our rovers on the surface until at least this Saturday, but scientists back home are still working hard. A new result from Perseverance's data was published last week, and 2 of the team members called it the first major science result from the mission. So the target location for Perseverance, the Jezero Crater, was chosen because satellite observations indicated what might be the remains of ancient deltas where rivers once flowed into an ancient lake. Now, a lake bed is a great place to look for signs of ancient life, and so this was why we sent Perseverance to this crater. However, the satellite observations weren't enough to confirm that this was in fact an ancient lake. Now, thanks to images taken by the rover over 3 months, the team was able to reconstruct the history of the area and basically, via sedimentation layers and flood-deposited boulders, show that this was in fact an ancient lake, and Jezero Crater is indeed a lake bed. I did not think I could be any more excited for Perseverance's samples, but yes! Speaking of things I'm absurdly excited about, a JWST update. After a 16-day journey by sea, including a transit through the Panama Canal, the telescope arrived in French Guiana on Tuesday. The telescope had to be transported in a custom-built container that would protect it from any possible conditions it would encounter during this trip. The container was called STARS, and it was too heavy to travel over the bridges from the airport to the launch site, which is why it had to make the trip by sea. Now, there were concerns that such a sea trip might represent an opportunity for pirates, because with a price tag of $10 billion, this could be an attractive target, but the telescope did arrive safely. It is now at the launch site. Next up, it will be unloaded from STARS, and then they will go through final checks to make sure that nothing was damaged during transit, and then it will be ready for launch, which is still scheduled for December 18th. Australian astronomers announced this week the detection of a strange new radio source with the very catchy name this. They name it based on its coordinates. The object is emitting radio waves that vary dramatically in brightness over time, by a factor of over 100 and with no discernible pattern. In addition, the radio waves from this source are very polarized. The signal from this object doesn't really match with signals from other radio sources that might have similar behavior, like pulsars or flaring stars. And they couldn't find any counterparts in other parts of the electromagnetic spectrum, such as visible, infrared, and X-rays. Basically, it's a real head-scratcher, and that means it could be an entirely new type of astronomical object. This is really exciting because in astronomy, we're limited in our data by what we can observe. So observing a new type of object usually opens an entirely new window onto the universe and astrophysics. Now, this source is located in the direction of the center of the galaxy, but there's no distance information associated with it, so astronomers don't know where it's actually located. Also, I just want to mention, because it seems like anytime a new unusual signal comes up, people want to say, "Oh, aliens." But really, it probably isn't. Yesterday, Blue Origin launched their second tourism New Shepard flight, NS-18. The passengers notably included William Shatner, who at age 90 just became the oldest person to ever go to space. Shatner was brought to tears after landing, saying that it was so moving for him and that everybody in the world needs to do this. So it seems that he experienced the so-called overview effect, and it's interesting to note that a suborbital flight like this can in fact induce the overview effect. While no details about the next New Shepard flight have been released, previous statements from Blue Origin indicate that it might be as soon as December, and that it could, for the first time, have on board the full complement of 6 people. This has been our weekly space and astronomy news update. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a lot of fun, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a good one. Bye.